Hello and welcome to Professional Christian Coaching Today. I'm Chris McCluskey.
And I'm Kim Avery.
Join us in raising the standard of coaching and changing the world. Coaching couples to be a winning team. We have in the past done episodes here, Kim and I, on themes of premarital and marriage coaching. Of course, one of the very popular courses we teach here at the Institute is on premarital and marriage coaching. And when we have explored that in the past, we've done a flyover of marriage coaching as a general field of specialization. We have interviewed one of the creators of the SYMBIS inventory, Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. That would be Dr. Les Parrott. He and his wife, Leslie Parrott, developed that inventory that is now used the world over. It is, in our opinion, an outstanding and unmatched inventory assessment for doing really effective premarital and marriage coaching. And we have also done an episode here in which we discussed marriage mindset. You know how often Kim and I emphasize that battles are often won or lost in our minds. As we think, so we act. And if we say it is or isn't, we're probably right. So mindset about marriage is a coaching theme. Well, today we have a new set of guests, a husband and wife team who are teaching our marriage coaching course, and they are going to be looking at marriage as teamwork, helping us to understand when we're a coach, how that applies to the role that you play and the work that you do as a premarital or marriage coach. Kim, let our listeners know who's joining us today.
This is a great lens to look at marriage through, and we have a very special couple here to address it. First of all, we have Rudy Graham. Rudy is a returning guest. He's a Gallup certified strengths coach and a managing partner of Fruitful Journey Coaching. He brings over 38 years of experience as a corporate sales professional in the technology industry. He now coaches and trains individuals and teams, as per our subject for today, to pursue performance growth in government and commercial organizations. With him is his wife, Wilmer. Wilmer holds a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and she's a certified public accountant. She's also earned credentials in executive leadership, and she is a senior excellence in government leader. Rudy and Wilmer have been married for over 39 years. In fact, they just celebrated their 39th anniversary, and they enjoy coaching marriages and teaching together here at the Professional Christian Coaching Institute. Welcome to the podcast, Rudy and Wilmer.
We're happy to be here.
Thank you. Looking forward to our conversation today, Kim.
I am too. Coaching couples to be a winning team. Today, we really do want to unpack this idea of what is it that coaching versus counseling, which is helping marriages which are somewhat troubled when people get to the counselor, or mentoring, which is something that couples do when perhaps an older couple takes them under their wing. But marriage coaching, what is it that brings to the table, particularly in the area of looking at it as a team instead of two separate individuals? Rudy, can you share why this is an important idea?
If we think about a team in an organization, whether it's a church or whether it's a private corporation, the team has been assembled to help carry out the mission of the organization, to get things to work together to accomplish a mission. A marriage is a team that's in place to carry out the mission and the vision of God. And so having the ability to look at a marriage as a team allows the team members, the husband and wife, to work on the outcomes and the purposes and the mission of that team called marriage, as opposed to their own individual goals.
Absolutely. God created a beautiful thing when he created marriage. And as a bride and groom are coming together, there is such high expectation. There's expectation about this life that they're going to live happily ever after. Oftentimes, they're not thinking about the day-to-day responsibilities of a marriage. When we start to think about the opportunity to coach couples, coaching couples will help them, particularly before marriage, will help them start to think very realistically about what day number 2 of being married.
I have to say that my husband and I represent that innocent couple who never thought about day number 2 when we entered into day number 1. And I think we would both strongly advocate for premarital counseling. Thankfully, God has helped us through some of those early ups and downs. But I will say, as a newly married person, it never occurred to me that our marriage had a mission other than to make me happy or be with this person that I was all starry-eyed about. I'm curious, how many couples are aware of that when they come to you? Or are you just kind of starting from a clean slate of couples who are a little bit more like my husband and I were, just thinking, oh, we're in love. What could possibly go wrong?
Most couples actually do start off that way, not focused on the fact that it's a team and it's a mission of God. And it's like, this is the person I met and I'm happy with. And I wasn't really thinking about God when I met this person. But then the challenges and the storms come. And oftentimes that's when couples seek help. And so sometimes it's through mentoring. Sometimes it's through counseling. Often it's through coaching, which is somewhat new relative to the other professions. But the beauty of coaching for marriages is that not only does the coach help the couple coach their marriage, but also teaches and transfers that knowledge and skill to the couple so that then the couple can work on their own marriage, coach their own marriage to make it better and make it achieve the outcomes and the visions that they have for it and that they believe God has for it.
And I think what I would add to what Rudy just shared is that coaching can indeed help the couple to see beyond themselves and to focus on the marriage as somewhat, oftentimes as an object. Oftentimes we hear objectify used in a negative term. But when we can remove the couples from the scenario or the issues that they're bringing to the table and get them to focus on, this is the marriage, reminding them of those good times that they were looking forward to, helping them to become more aware and focusing on the marriage. They oftentimes can then retreat from some of the concerns that they're coming forward with, start to focus more on the why of the marriage, why God brought them together to start with.
Boom. Absolutely. Totally agree. And that's actually what I love about this notion of coaching couples to be a winning team, because the same thing is absolutely true. Anytime we come in to coach a team, we know that a team, typically if it's a work team at a corporation or a work team that help run a church or a ministry, why there are a bunch of individual members there. They want to be able to communicate more effectively. They want to be able to understand each other's personalities and leadership styles and all those things we coach around. But in the end, that team does not exist just so that everybody can be happy and get along well. They exist for a reason. There's work to be done. There is mission, there is vision, there is purpose for that team. And what you're really underscoring here is that we need to approach marriage with that same awareness. And I agree, Kim, back to you. I think when we stand at the altar, most of us are at the altar because we're crazy in love with this person we're marrying. We're like over the moon. Oh my gosh, I'm going to actually get to spend my life with them. And that makes me so happy. I feel so fulfilled. What a joy to be able to spend my days with them. I'll never be lonely again. All that kind of self-focused stuff. It's all pretty unrealistic, but nevertheless, it's missing the bigger, and you used the word there, Wilmer, the bigger why. Why did our God, who ordained marriage, say that it's not good that we be alone? That's not just so that we will not be lonely. We will have companionship. Marriage is a powerful tool of the master in this world, or at least it's supposed to be. So I think riff off of that. When you get an opportunity as a coach to coach couples in awareness of their team calling, purpose, vision, various missions and seasons of their lives, what does a coach come able to do that perhaps wouldn't be done in counseling or therapy, reparative kind of stuff, or just mentoring, giving advice and tips and guidance? What do we get to do as a coach when we're team coaching a couple?
That's a great question. The biggest difference, I believe, between mentoring and counseling of a marriage is the coaching process helps a couple find a vision for their marriage. In other words, it's forward looking. It's looking out the windshield, a vision of where do we want this marriage to go? Where do we believe God wants this marriage to go? So all the energies are focused forward, and there's a vision that is unrealized at that point that they're heading toward. So it's a positive force that pulls the marriage and the couple along with it forward to live out what God has intended for them, which then allows that to be reflected in the society so that others might want to be married and join in line with God's purpose.
Rudy, with you and Wilmer's permission, I would love to grab that metaphor you used there. You talked about looking out through a windshield. Can I share how you two came to have dinner with Rachel and I while you were doing some windshield time together and kind of illustrate the point you just made?
Certainly. That was a very precious moment. Look forward to doing that again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, so listener, Rachel and I were out on a date night together at our little favorite restaurant here in mid-Missouri. We were at Sybil's restaurant eating out on the patio, and my phone buzzed, and I happened to glance down and realize that it was Rudy Graham. And I knew Rudy from the Institute here. I knew he and Wilmer both. We had met at the retreat that we had done at the Billy Graham Center, but they don't live here. They live over on the East Coast. I picked up the phone real quickly, and they said, "Hey, we're driving through. We're really close to where you live. Somewhere here, your farm is close by. Wondered if we might be able to stop by today or tomorrow." And I said, "Well, where are you?" They shared where they were, and they were literally like 15 minutes from the restaurant. So he said, "Hey, come and just join us for dinner. We're out on the porch. We all we've done was ordered." So we had the most wonderful leisurely evening dinner, the four of us together out on that porch. Watched the sun go down, right? The stars were out by the time we wrapped up that night. But the reason I'm sharing that story is that what they were doing is literally looking through their windshield as they drove their car on a multi-weeks trip to nowhere in particular. They were in a season of their marriage where they were transitioning clearly out of a previous season and moving into a vague, unseen, unknown new season. And they said, you know what? We need some windshield time. We need to get away together and just be with some questions. So please, would the two of you step in there, because it's your story. Talk about what you were doing in your marriage as a team with regard to vision.
That experience, and we do that quite a bit. We don't always come to Rolla when we do it, but we do that windshield time quite a bit. And what we've come, as we've been trained as coaches, to understand is that that is our coaching time. We are coaching our marriage. We're coaching our future as we're going down the road. And what it allows us to do is to create a space or a container to get all the distractions out of the way, because it's just what's in front of us, which metaphorically is about life, which is life in front of us. And it gives us time to really talk and share back and forth and question one another and ideate about what the future is going to be for our marriage and for our lives. Being able to take that experience and translate it into something that we put a couple into. We don't put them in the car, but literally in a coaching session, we put them in a space to block out the present and all the challenges and look forward to something that is based on faith of what the future might be. It's an excellent metaphor for what we love to do with couples, is to help them not focus so much on today, but hey, what's possible?
And what I would add to that is, for me, it is reconnecting. We live a very busy life. Sometimes we are moving at such a speed that the only time that we're really connecting is when it's time to wind down the late evening. Getting out of our normal space, just getting in the car when there's not, it's just the two of us in the car. There's no project to be dealt with. There are no phone calls to be taken. Just the two of us. I think when we return home, much like a coaching session, we've developed a higher level of connection, higher level of just awareness of where we are in our relationship at that moment in time. And the whole ideation piece that Rudy speaks about, we're both achievers And so we are dreaming and we're thinking about what's coming next. And in our own minds, in our own planning, trying to lay out an approach for what it is that we need to do in order to move forward. Those are the kinds of things that we periodically like to do. And Chris, we truly enjoyed that dinner. We actually talk about it often.
I think one thing I want to add to that or riff off in that is that when we're doing all of that, ideating and dreaming and visioning for our marriage, because we are literally in the business of coaching and building marriages, we are well aware of that higher purpose that we believe we're supposed to go be the hands of God to help create better marriages. And so obviously we can't do that. We can't coach every couple that we want to coach. Big part of what we're focused on is equipping other coaches to do this great work, this work that we think is the most important work that God has for coaches. We do executive coaching, but that's just a part of what we do. This is the most important work we do as coaches, is to coach marriages and to equip coaches to coach marriages, because marriage has a special place in the eyes of God. We have a special calling to contribute to that.
Amen to that. As the saying goes, as goes marriage, so goes the family. As goes the family, so goes the culture. When we can do work on strengthening the bonds and connection, as you're talking about when we're of a marriage, and going beyond that, not just for the two of them, but clarifying the vision, the purpose, the mission for marriage that God has in this world, then we have changed fundamentally the family and therefore the culture. We always say it, keep raising the standard of coaching and changing the world. What more powerful place to be doing some of our coaching work than in marriages that impact families, that impact the culture?
Agreed. It is some of the most important and central work we do. And your marriage is a beautiful example of that. I will say, as a coach, if I were going to begin coaching marriages, there's probably also the reality that most couples that came to me would probably not be in the position you all are in, perhaps not as self-aware, not as skilled at communication, and you're certainly more emotionally aware of what needs to come into the marriage. Pretend that I were a newer coach and I'd never coached a couple before. How do I handle the first couple that comes through my coaching door?
Kim, that's a very good question. Beyond praying with the couple, there is a need to get a sense of just where the couple is, where they are as a team and where they are as individuals. And that's where the tools like SYMBIS can come into play. SYMBIS is saving your marriage before it starts. Ideally, it's working with couples even before they get married so that they can begin to develop some foundation of awareness of where they stand individually. Each person has traveled a different path up until that point in time. They've had differing experiences. They've come from different households. Particularly in these days, the makeup of the household could be vastly different. And so now they're coming together as one. And as we said in the outset of this conversation, oftentimes focusing on that day one, not thinking perhaps oftentimes about what's coming down the road. What is day two? What is 90 days? What is a couple of years? Oftentimes not thinking about the number of children that they want to have. Does she want to be a stay-at-home mom? Does he want to be a stay-at-home dad? Not thinking about the community that they want to live in. As they start to travel down that path, that's when those differences start to show up. Even if they have not taken SYMBIS before they've gotten married. Now it's after the marriage, and it's usually after quite a bit of tension has entered into the relationship. When they're showing up for coaching, the first thing we want to do as a coach is to get a sense of where are they? Do they know where they are?
I appreciate tools like the SYMBIS so much because once you give people an assessment, it introduces non-pejorative language to what could have been a heated conversation, whether it's about scarcity or abundance or family or money or whatever it is. They've probably labeled in a negative or positive way someone's behavior. But when you give an assessment, it simply describes. It's not putting judgment on that description. So already you can feel the temperature in a room go down when you have an assessment that opens up a conversation with language that everybody agrees to. Pick it up from there, Rudy. Once the couple has taken the SYMBIS assessment, what happens next?
Once the couple has taken the SYMBIS assessment, we start to help them unpack it and understand what's in it and look at the results that each of them have based on their answering the questions. They answer the questions. They're not going to argue with the assessment. So now we know where they are, and it allows them to appreciate their differences. Going back to our theme about a marriage being a team of people who all think and do the same, it really isn't that great of a team because it does not have a balance of talents and different things that to bring to it. Likewise, in a marriage, being able to have people who don't think the same is great. And SYMBIS calls those kinds of things out. And so now we have that along with the marriage coaching process to help them work through how to get to the vision and what they want for their marriage while taking in consideration the results that have been revealed in the SYMBIS inventory. For instance, we are very, very different people. We have very different mindsets about a lot of things. Allowing that to come together without creating conflict because we understand our differences and we actually leverage those differences. And so it's an opportunity for a team called marriage to understand how God has gifted each of them differently and how to use that and apply it together as opposed to against one another. It really gives us a good starting point on a coaching journey or a couple trying to coach their marriage to some future vision. It'll take a number of coaching sessions, but it really makes it a lot easier when the information from the SYMBIS assessment can be leveraged throughout that coaching journey.
Using the assessment tool allows each individual to be heard. It gives voice to each of the individuals about how they are trying to express themselves, which sometimes gets overshadowed when they've reached a point where they are no longer communicating or feeling as though they're not being heard.
Just like in a team, again, sometimes we're in teams and there are certain personalities that are more dominant in the room. And pretty soon the team can begin to take on the personality, as it were, of that one or two persons who are more dominant in the team, and the people that are quieter or hold back or maybe feel like they're in a one down position, a little bit vulnerable to being let go or something like that. Why they don't add their 2 cents to the thing. Well, here we've just got a team of two. It's a dyad. There's only the two individuals, but very definitely there's almost always one who's more dominant, one who is more submissive or passive even sometimes. And yes, the assessment helps to put both persons' voices out there so they can be heard and hopefully respected. I love then that you're saying that gets us started. And then we assess the raw material of what this couple has to work with, just like, again, a team. What's the raw material here? Where are our strengths? Where are our vulnerable points? And then to move beyond that to the word you used just a moment ago, Rudy, to vision. This, I think, is the bigger takeaway of the power, the potential power of doing effective marriage coaching, is that in the end, the goal hopefully is not just that the two people get along better or are happier, in quotation marks, in some general vague sense with the life partner they're sharing life with. Especially in Christian marriage, we know that God has blessed us, yes, and entrusted us with something he expects us to invest and bring a return for the master's glory. He wants to further his kingdom purposes through our individual lives, well, certainly through our marriages. And so that bigger issue of the vision, the why, what's this all about in addition to being happy and having company and all? I think there is where, if a couple are well engaged, they're respecting and hearing the differences that they bring, they're assessing their raw material, and they're rolling up their sleeves to do visioning work. I think you have potentially several months worth of deep exploration, just like the two of you were doing on that windshield trip and like you apparently do frequently in your marriage, to say, wrapping up one season, looks like another season's opening up. What could that be about? What should that be about? What do you hear the Lord saying to you? What do you desire? What do you no longer desire? All those questions that we take the time to be with together.
Chris, I think you hit it on the head there when you said, take the time to be. Because at that point, we're not thinking about all of these actions. It's getting the couple to the point where they are looking objectively at the information that has now been shared. And quite frankly, each of them has some processing to do. And the coaching helps to facilitate that processing. They may or may not arrive at the same place at the same time. There has to be this time that's set aside for the synthesizing of where am I in this relationship at this point in time, in order to get some clarity about what to now do with this vision. Then start to think about the plan that the couple now wants to map out in order to move forward.
Marriage coaching is such a beautiful vision. And I love your concept of bringing a couple together as a team and coaching the marriage, not just each individual person. And you've really clarified, I think, what goes on during a marriage coaching session, beginning with assessment, just understanding where they are, giving each person in the couple a chance to be heard and to explore what are my desires, what are my needs, what is important to me as an individual, but then coming together and creating that vision and allowing the couple to map out, almost that windshield time, right? Map out the future. Where do we want to go as a married couple? It's work that's truly worth doing.
Through the years, my wife Rachel and I have done a good bit of coaching of each other and of our marriage. We spend the same kind of windshield time. In fact, that's why we were out that night for our date night. Typically, every week on Thursday nights, we go for a long drive into the country, 45 minutes away from home, to Sybil's restaurant, and we do our examination of where are we now? Where would we like to go? What's it going to take to get there? All that kind of coaching. But we also have translated that into some very clear action. And actually, she and I have about a 12-page long written document. Only she and I have ever probably seen it. We might have shared it with our older married children or a few friends, but it's not for public consumption. But it is a vision statement of the vision that Rachel and I believe God has for us. If he had handed it to us in a scroll, which unfortunately he didn't, we had to discern it. But if he had, what would it say? What's our mission? What's our purpose? What's our higher calling as a married couple, imaging him in Christian marriage in this world? That document details that. Well, that document's come out of hours and hours of being coached and us coaching each other, and then of the two of us being in that coaching space together to clarify those things. Where are we? Where do we want to be? What's it going to take to get there? I think in wrapping us up here, Wilmer, Rudy, just kind of touch on a little bit about this course that you'll be teaching here just in a few weeks, actually. By the time this airs here coming up in 2022, the next offering of our premarital and marriage coaching course is coming around. What would you say in general about the value of that for any coach?
I would say the value of that for any coach, anybody who really wants to help marriages, but especially coaches who are already coaching and want to add some skills to their portfolio to be able to help marriages. A lot of times, maybe they encounter someone coaching on some other area, an individual, and then that individual maybe wants some help with their marriage. And so to get equipped to be able to do this marriage work, someone who will participate in this class will be certified in SYMBIS assessment so that they then can go off and use the SYMBIS assessment as they work with marriages. And then also they will learn the process of coaching a marriage, which, as we said, is different from coaching an individual. In the class, we will actually have pre-marriage couples as well as married couples come to the class, and there'll be live coaching so that we're not just talking about theory and about how it should be. It'll actually take place inside the classroom. that gives a participant in the class, a student, confidence when they leave to go off and implement this. Then there are folks like Wilmer and I with Fruitful Journey Coaching. A lot of what we like to do is help coaches or marriage ministry leaders as they're moving forward to implement the things that they learn from us or what that they learn from the class. And so they're never alone, right? Someone takes on this great work that God has to help marriages. There are folks like us and others around to support them so that they are successful.
God bless marriage. He created marriage. And in doing so, he's entrusted huge responsibility. And I think as marriage coaches, we then have a responsibility to help other couples or to help others who are interested in supporting marriages to be able to advance God's work. Rudy and I were sharing before the podcast, and we were reflecting back on some of the work that we've done and some of the materials that we've used. And then there's one fairly well-known individual that frequently says, you know, when we get to heaven, God's going to hold us accountable for this relationship that he's given us. So when couples are reaching out for support, we have a responsibility. Those of us to whom he has entrusted such knowledge, we have a responsibility. And we should take that responsibility very seriously because we believe he's going to hold us accountable.
And hopefully he says, well done.
It's truly important work. It's cultural work and it's generational work. If you've listened today and this has tweaked your interest in marriage and premarital coaching, we would encourage you to take a look at this class, which starts August 17th, 2022, premarital and marriage coaching at our website at professionalchristiancoaching.com. That's professionalchristiancoaching.com. And also, if you'd like to get in touch with Rudy and Wilmer, I would encourage you to drop by their website as well, which is fruitfuljourneycoaching.com.
Fruitfuljourneycoaching.com. Yes, indeed. And they do walk their talk. This is a couple who exude everything we've been talking about here. It's a joy to have them on faculty. Wilmer, Rudy, bless you both for the important work that you do, for your yes to God's call to strengthen marriages. Gang, with that, we'll wrap it up and say, as we always do, you keep raising the standard of coaching and changing the world.
God's richest blessings to you.